All right, I am back, and as you can probably see, I kind of missed that at the beginning, but I'm at the Rogue Arbor. I decided to swap some things up, so instead of running like straight up maps because it was getting a little repetitive, I wanted to take a break, see if I could earn some kind of currency through heists, and just keep going from there. Now, to be honest, I haven't done enough research to actually learn the acquisition in terms of like obtaining chaos orbs and divines and all this extra stuff through heist. I've heard a lot, I've asked around, and because I haven't actually experienced it myself, I don't know too much about it. To my understanding, it's all supposed to be RNG, but I thought at the very least it would be a little bit of a break from the constant mapping. As you can see, my health has now hit 2,900. I'm like 100 closer to 3K. To be honest, I have like 5+ recordings where I'm playing for anywhere between probably 30 minutes to 6 hours, just depending on what I'm doing. And I'm sure there are times where I'm just standing still as well, or taking part of something with a friend, or whatever. I could be looking over a build. I could be going to the bathroom. I could have been in class. I could have been at work. Could have been at a friend's house. There's no telling what kept me out for so long. But I try to cut a lot of this stuff down so nobody has to sit and watch like 2 hours of me most likely sitting in silence because I usually turn my mic off because I'm listening to music. And so I decided to run this setup in the heist in hopes of getting a bit of a smoother um, way of gaining currency. And things have been pretty chill. I've changed out my graphs. At this point, I'm not too aware of my graphs. I just know there's one or two that I have been potentially enjoying, which, as you can see, I believe is called the Heart of Flames. And then there's one extra that eventually gets changed. So that one I'm not super familiar with. It's mainly just the Heart of Flames. You can see my overall skill setup is still the same. I still Frost Blink. I still have my Herald of Thunder, my automation, and whatever on earth that first skill is, plus Phase Rush. That red and then that green that you can see that comes in and comes out are just charges. Um, I believe it's the frenzy charges as well as the endurance charges, and then that's pretty much it. You know, not much has been changing at all for the build outside of my flash setup, and then of course I believe what my guess is the reason why my life is only going up like 100 per whatever clips is either because I'm changing out my like rares, my jewels, or my like I'm literally leveling up, putting a point into something, and then it's giving my health an extra whatever. I know some people talk about there's like a website where you can watch people's builds change like over time of a league. If my build is in there, then you can see the actual process. It's probably going to be super messy and really like terrible, but that's just been my opening, trying out a different build and just rushing it without really knowing how to get my hands on decent money. Overall, I still have been having fun um, and just running through. There is a point where I start using the build, or I start realizing with the build that I'm getting burnt out, and I forget exactly where it is. So just in case, um, I might delete the footage on accident or something. That turning point for me was the new bosses that came with this league, and I just did not like fighting them at all with this build at its current rate. And I do pretty decent damage, but I couldn't tank certain hits, and it just convinced me that I needed to change up the way that I was running things. At one point, I ran with my friend, and we gave it a try, and he could distract them and take the hits while I dealt the damage, but together we still were struggling. So um, after a while, I kind of just gotten burnt out, feeling like everything was stagnant because I was just running around with this build, and that was it, right? I was just running around. It's an AFK build. It's just at one point it felt like I was getting bored of it because I wasn't. It felt like I wasn't progressing, and that's because I hadn't really found what it was I wanted to do in order to progress. And I guess at one point I decided I wanted to get currency, and so to take a break from mapping and just run some heists, that's what I decided to do. But there comes a point where even enemies in heists are doing significantly more damage. And I've heard a lot of people say you want to pick a build that's aimed more so towards movement speed and evasion and whatnot, survivability, than anything with damage because you're only trying to get in and get out to get money. And so eventually, even this build would feel a little like tiresome um, while doing something like heist. All right, fast forward about an hour and 40 something minutes in, maybe almost 2 hours in, and we are still doing heist. I think I took a break and did a few maps and then came back to heist, probably so that I could get some of the what do you call them when you're doing the blueprints? Sorry, the blueprints and whatnot, so that I could actually run the heist. And yeah, this is towards the end of the video clip, and as you can see, I am still running heists and just getting stuff down. And I actually did some more research way later on and found out there was a good chunk of stuff I was missing in terms of heists. So really, I should have just focused on grinding certain things out, but I was just fed up, man. I'm not gonna lie. So here we are, finding something, literally anything, and then taking it back with us and just going home. But we hit 3K health in the change of all that. I'm starting to think it looks like I leveled up. All right, so I would say probably something with a cluster jewel helped that, but it could have literally just been me adding quality to an item or changing out an item or even changing out the abyssal jewel in my Stygian Vice. But yeah, so this is the turning point there in the journey. Whoops.